I was standing in our childhood bedroom at 11:23 p.m. on my 18th birthday, watching my parents hand my twin sister Emma the keys to a car, the car they'd promised to both of us since we were 14. But here's the thing. The worst part wasn't that they chose her. It was that when I finally spoke up, my mum looked me dead in the eye and said, "Sweetheart, we only have enough for one car and Emma needs it more." They'd spent $47,000 on her club volleyball over 4 years. I'd been working at Target since I was 16. This is the story of how I went from being the forgotten twin to building something they could never take away from me. Let me take you back to where this really started. My name is Riley, and for the first 18 years of my life, I genuinely believed I was the problem. Emma and I were born 11 minutes apart. She came first, obviously, and according to family legend, she came out crying louder, gripping the doctor's finger, already knowing how to take up space. I was quiet, observant, the kind of kid who'd rather read in the corner than perform. And in my family, that was a fatal flaw. By the time we were 7, the pattern was set. Emma played soccer. My parents bought her custom cleats and drove her to tournaments 3 states away. I asked for art classes. My dad said, "We'll see," which in parent speak means absolutely not, but I don't want to argue right now. When we were 10, Emma wanted to switch to volleyball. They built her a whole training setup in the garage, hired a private coach, $600 a month. I wanted a piano. Got a $40 keyboard from Walmart for Christmas. Here's what really messed with my head, though. They were good parents in every other way. They weren't abusive. They showed up to school events. They said they loved us both equally. My mum would even get defensive if anyone suggested otherwise. "We treat our girls exactly the same," she'd insist at family gatherings. But I started keeping track when I was 15, because I needed to know I wasn't crazy. Emma's club volleyball expenses, $11,000 per year. Emma's private coaching, $7,200 per year. Emma's tournament travel, approximately $8,000 per year. My total extracurricular budget, $0. They paid for Emma's SAT prep course, $1,400, her college application consultant, $3,000, her spring break volleyball showcase trips. When I asked if I could take a summer writing workshop at the community college, $250, my dad said we needed to be more financially responsible. The gaslighting was surgical. Anytime I brought up the disparity, I was keeping score or jealous or not being supportive of my sister. Emma would cry, saying I was making her feel guilty for pursuing her dreams. Then I'd end up apologizing. I learned to stay small, do not ask. To convince myself that maybe Emma did need more because she was more talented, more ambitious, more something. The car thing should have been my final straw, but honestly, I was so conditioned by that point that I just went to my room, closed the door, and cried quietly so no one would hear. But my best friend Maya heard about it the next day, and she wasn't having it. "Riley, you realize this is insane, right?" She was sitting across from me at our usual table at the campus coffee shop where I'd just started college. Community college because it made financial sense, while Emma was at a state school 2 hours away with a partial volleyball scholarship and my parents covering the rest. "They can spend their money how they want," I said, stirring my coffee. I'd paid for it with my Target paycheck. "Babe, no." Maya leaned forward. "You worked 30 hours a week your entire senior year. You had a 3.9 GPA. You got into the state school too, and they told you they couldn't afford to send both of you. But they're still paying for Emma's dorm, her meal plan, her sorority dues. Do you know how much sorority dues are?" I didn't, but I knew Emma had texted me a picture of her new sorority jacket the week before. It looked expensive. "I just need to work harder," I said. Prove I'm worth investing in. Maya grabbed my hand. Stop. Listen to yourself. You shouldn't have to earn your parents' basic support. Emma doesn't. Something cracked open in my chest. I went home that night and I did something I'd never done before. I wrote it all down. Every single instance I could remember. Every tournament they'd driven Emma to while I stayed home alone. Every time they dismissed my interests as hobbies while treating Emma's volleyball as a future. Every birthday where Emma got the bigger gift, the bigger party, the bigger celebration. It took me 3 days to write. Single-spaced, it was 12 pages. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but I needed to see it all in one place. To prove to myself I wasn't making it up. 2 weeks later, I was home for Sunday dinner, a mandatory family tradition. Emma had come home for the weekend too, and the entire meal was about her upcoming volleyball tournament and her new boyfriend and her sorority formal. I'd just gotten my first A+ on a college essay. My professor had written, "Exceptional work. Have you considered majoring in English?" at the top. Nobody asked me about school. Not once. After dinner, I was loading the dishwasher when I heard my parents talking in the living room. Emma had gone upstairs. "I think we should get Emma a new laptop," my mum said. "She's been complaining hers is slow." "How much?" my dad asked. "The one she wants is $1,800, but I found it on sale for $1,500. "Let's do it. Her schoolwork is important." I stood there, hands in soapy water, thinking about my 5-year-old laptop that took 10 minutes to boot up. The one I'd asked them about replacing 6 months ago, and they'd said, "Yours still works fine." I dried my hands. I walked into the living room. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "Can I talk to you both about something?" They looked up, surprised. I rarely interrupted. "I've been feeling like there's an imbalance in how you support Emma and me, financially and otherwise." I said it as gently as possible, non-confrontational, the way I'd been trained. My dad's expression immediately hardened. "Riley, not this again. Please just listen. I'm not trying to start a fight, I made a list of the differences in how you've supported us, and I think if you looked at it objectively, a list." My mum's face did this thing where it went from concerned to hurt to angry in about 3 seconds. "You're keeping score of what we do for you kids." "That's not, I just wanted to show you." "Emma has needs you don't have." My dad cut me off. "She's an athlete. Her future literally depends on her performance. That requires investment." "But I have a future too," I said, and I hated how small my voice sounded. "I have dreams too. I've just never asked for help with them because you're more independent," my mum said, like it was a compliment. "You've always been self-sufficient. That's a good thing, Riley. We don't worry about you the way we worry about Emma." And there it was, the thing I'd always suspected but never heard out loud. They didn't support me because I didn't need support, because I'd figured out how to survive without it. "That's not fair," I whispered. Emma appeared at the top of the stairs. "What's going on?" "Your sister is upset that we bought you a car," my dad said. That's not. I looked at Emma, desperate. "You see it too, right? How do they treat us differently?" Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Riley, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to ruin everything?" "I'm not trying to. You're always making me feel bad for having opportunities. It's not my fault I'm good at volleyball. It's not my fault I have goals. I have goals too, but nobody ever asks me about them, because you never tell us," my mum said. "You're so closed off, Riley. You lock yourself in your room, you barely talk to us. How are we supposed to support dreams you never share?" The room was spinning. They were making this my fault, all of it. The years of watching Emma get everything while I got nothing. Somehow, in their minds, that was because I wasn't communicating well enough. I left, got in my ancient Honda Civic, the one I'd bought myself with my Target money for $3,200, and drove back to my apartment. It was tiny, a studio I shared with Maya, and I couldn't afford heat, but it was mine. I pulled out that 12-page document, read it again. Every entry felt like a small wound reopening. Then I did something that changed everything. I posted about it. Not the whole document, but a shortened version. I put it on Reddit, in a support community for people dealing with favoritism, changed all the names, just needed to know if I was overreacting. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of comments, people sharing their own stories, validating what I'd experienced. But more importantly, people give advice. One comment in particular stuck with me. You can't change them. They've built an entire narrative where this is normal, and they'll defend it to the death because admitting they were wrong means admitting they damaged one of their children. Your only option is to build a life so successful, so fulfilling, that their opinion stops mattering. Another person wrote, "The best revenge is a life well lived. Focus on your own success. Let them watch from the outside." I stayed up until 4 a.m. reading comments, crying, and something was shifting in me. All my life I'd been trying to win my parents' approval, trying to prove I was worth their investment. What if I stopped? What if I took all that energy, the longing, the trying, the hoping, and invested it in myself instead? I opened a new document on my dying laptop and wrote at the top, Operation Win. Not Operation Get My Parents to Love Me, not Operation Prove I'm as good as Emma, just win. Then I wrote down everything I wanted, everything I'd been too afraid to want because wanting things led to disappointment. Transfer to a 4-year school, major in English, minor in business, graduate with honours, build a writing career, create financial independence, never need their money again. And then I added one more thing. Make them wish they'd bet on me. The next morning, I went to the financial aid office at my community college. I'd been embarrassed to go before because my parents had money. They just weren't spending it on. Had money, they just weren't spending it on me. But the financial aid counsellor, Mrs. Patterson, was incredibly kind when I explained my situation. This happens more than you'd think, she said, pulling up scholarship databases. Parents who support one child but not the other. It's a form of financial abuse, honestly. That word, abuse, made me flinch. But she was right. We spent 2 hours going through every scholarship I was eligible for. Local ones, national ones, ones for community college transfer students, ones for first-generation college students, which I technically wasn't, but Emma had gotten the Family College Legacy Boost, so I got creative with my essays. I applied to 47 scholarships over the next month. It was brutal. Essays, recommendations, applications. I was working 30 hours a week, taking 18 credits, and spending every spare moment writing scholarship applications. But here's what I discovered. When you're pouring your pain into purpose, it hurts less. I won 3 scholarships in that first round, total $8,000. I cried in the Target break room when I got the email about the first one. Then I got strategic. I met with an advisor who helped me create a transfer plan. If I took summer classes and overloaded my schedule, I could transfer to the state school as a junior. Same school Emma went to, actually, but I wouldn't need my parents' help. I worked out the budget, scholarships, financial aid, plus I'd need to work 25 hours a week. It was doable, barely, but doable. In May, I got my acceptance to transfer, full scholarship covering tuition, plus financial aid for living expenses. I'd still need to work to afford food and books, but I was getting out of community college. I didn't tell my parents until 3 days before I was supposed to move. We were at another Sunday dinner and Emma was talking about her summer plans. She was doing a volunteer program in Costa Rica. My parents were paying for it, obviously, $4,000 for 6 weeks. During a pause in the conversation, I said, "I'm transferring to state. I start in the fall." My mum blinked. "What? When did this happen?" "I applied in February, got accepted in April." "Why didn't you tell us?" my dad asked. "Because I didn't need your permission or your money. I have scholarships." Emma stared at me. "You're coming to my school." "It's not your school, Emma. It's a state university, 30,000 students. I think we can avoid each other." "Riley, that's not fair," my mum said. "Emma's established herself there. She has her team, her friends. And I'll have my own life, completely separate from hers." The table went silent. I could feel my dad's anger, my mum's disapproval, Emma's tears brewing. But for the first time in my life, I didn't apologize. I just ate my dinner. Transferring to state was like emerging from underwater. Suddenly, I was surrounded by people who didn't know me as Emma's twin or the quiet one. I was just Riley, and I got to decide who that meant. I threw myself into my English major. Turns out, when you've spent your whole life observing family dynamics and trying to understand why you were treated differently, you get really good at analyzing literature and human behavior. My professors noticed. I was getting invited to research projects, asked to present at undergraduate conferences, and offered TA positions. And the writing, God, the writing. I started a blog about navigating family estrangement and favoritism. I was brutally honest, anonymous but honest. It went viral in certain circles. Thousands of people related to it. A literary agent reached out 6 months after I started. "Have you ever considered turning this into a book?" I hadn't, but I said yes. I was also aggressively building my financial independence. I had 3 part-time jobs my junior year. TA for the English department, $15 per hour, freelance copywriter, $30 per hour, and I'd started a small tutoring business, $40 per hour. I was sleeping 5 hours a night, but I was making it work. By senior year, I had $12,000 in savings. My own apartment, no roommates. A laptop I'd bought myself. A life I'd built from scratch. Meanwhile, Emma had quit volleyball, dropped out of her sorority, changed her major 3 times. My parents were worried about her constantly, still funding her every move, still trying to help her find her path. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just nothing. They'd stopped being the center of my universe. But here's the thing about parents who've built their identity around the successful child. When that child falters and the backup child starts thriving, they get confused. My mum started calling more, just checking in, asking about my classes, my plans. I kept the conversations short, polite, surface level. "You seem distant," she said once. "I'm busy," I replied, which was true. "Are you still angry about everything?" "I'm not angry anymore, Mum. I'm just focused on my own life." "But we're your family." "I know, and you'll always be my family, but I don't need you the way I used to." I could hear her crying softly on the other end of the line. Part of me wanted to comfort her. The old Riley would have immediately backtracked, apologized, made her feel better. New Riley said, "I have to go. I have class." The book deal came through in the fall of my senior year. A real publisher, a real advance. $50,000 for a memoir about growing up as the unfavored child in a family that practiced covert favoritism. I called Maya first, then my mentor, Dr. Harrison, who'd been helping me with the proposal. Then I sat with it for a day, this massive, life-changing validation of my experiences. I didn't call my parents. My mum found out through Facebook, of all things. I'd posted a professional announcement. Thrilled to share that my debut book, The Spare Twin, will be published next year. Thank you to everyone who believed in this story. She called immediately. Riley, is this real? You wrote a book. I'm writing it. It'll be published next fall. About what? I took a breath. About my childhood, about being the less favoured twin. Silence. Then, you're writing about our family. I'm writing about my experience. Riley, you can't do this. You can't air our private family business to the world. It's my story, Mum, my experience. I have the right to tell you. What about Emma? What about us? Did you think about how this will affect us? And there it was. After 22 years, her first concern still wasn't my pain, my experience, my truth. It was how it would reflect on them. Actually, I did think about it, I said calmly. I've been thinking about it my whole life, how my feelings might inconvenience you, how my needs might burden you, how my existence seemed to matter less than Emma's success. So yes, I thought about it, and then I decided my story was more important than your comfort. Your father and I did the best we could. I'm sure you believe that. We love you and Emma equally. Love and support aren't the same thing, Mum. You can love someone and still fail them. She was crying now. I don't understand. We gave you a good life. You never went without. I went without plenty, Mom. I went without validation, encouragement, investment. I went without feeling like I mattered as much as my sister. I went without unconditional support. Just because I had food and shelter doesn't mean I had everything I needed. So this book is revenge. You're trying to hurt us. No, this book is healing. I'm trying to help other people who lived what I lived. If that makes you uncomfortable, that's something you'll need to work through. She hung up. My dad called an hour later, left a voicemail. I'm very disappointed in you, Riley. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By humiliating the family. I expected better from you. I saved the voicemail because it was so perfectly on brand it was almost funny. Even now, even after everything, his concern was about him, about how this made them look. Not once did either of them say, I'm sorry you felt that way. Not once did they ask what they could do to repair our relationship. They just wanted me to stay quiet. I graduated summa cum laude in May, 3.97 GPA, Phi Beta Kappa, university honours. I'd also been accepted to 3 prestigious graduate programs for creative writing, all with full funding. I invited my parents to graduation, didn't expect them to come. They surprised me. All 3 of them showed up, Mum, Dad, and Emma. After the ceremony, we went to dinner. My choice this time. A nice restaurant I could actually afford now, thanks to my book advance. It was awkward. Emma looked miserable. My parents were trying too hard to be normal. We're proud of you, my dad said after we'd ordered. Thank you. You've done well for yourself. I have. My mum reached across the table. Riley, I know things have been strained, but can we try to move forward? You're always going to be our daughter. I looked at her hand, then at her face. She looked older, tired. I appreciate you coming today, I said carefully. It means something that you're here. But if we're going to move forward, I need you to understand something. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not trying to punish you, but I'm also not pretending the past didn't happen. My book is being published. I'm telling my story. That's non-negotiable. But can you could you change our names? Or remove some of the more specific details? My mum asked. I've already changed names and identifying details. But the experiences, those stay, because they're true. Emma spoke for the first time. Do I come off badly in the book? I looked at my twin sister, this person I'd shared a womb with, shared a bedroom with, shared a childhood with, and felt sad more than anything else. You come off as a kid who was given a lot of advantages and pressure, I said honestly. I don't villainize you, Emma. You didn't choose how they treated us differently. You were just a kid too. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know it was that bad for you. I really didn't. I know. That was kind of the point. It was invisible unless you were on the receiving end. I'm sorry, she whispered. It was the first apology I'd gotten from any of them. Thank you, I said. We finished dinner. It wasn't healed. You don't heal 22 years of hurt over pasta, but it was something. A beginning, maybe, or an ending with slightly more closure. As we were leaving, my dad pulled me aside. I still don't agree with the book, but you've built a good life for yourself. I can acknowledge that. It wasn't an apology, there wasn't accountability, but it was the closest he was capable of getting. Thanks, Dad. He nodded. I walked away. Here's what I learned from winning against my parents' favoritism, and it's not what you might think. The win wasn't the book deal, though that was validating. It wasn't graduating with honours or getting into grad school or achieving financial independence, though all of that mattered. The win was the moment I stopped needing them to see me. For 18 years, I kept thinking, if I just achieve enough, they'll notice. They'll realise I was worth investing in. But that's a game you can't win, because the rules were rigged from the start. They didn't fail to invest in me because I wasn't accomplished enough. They failed to invest in me because they'd built a narrative where Emma was the star and I was the supporting character. And admitting they were wrong would have shattered their entire worldview. People who are deeply invested in a particular version of reality will go to extraordinary lengths to maintain it. My parents weren't cartoon villains. They genuinely believed they were doing their best. They told themselves stories. Riley is more independent. Emma needs more support. We treat them the same, just differently. They needed those stories to be true because the alternative, that they'd systematically favoured one child over another, was too painful to accept. So I stopped trying to change their story. I wrote my own instead. Here's what actually worked. First, I documented everything, not to prove them wrong, but to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. When you're being gaslit, you start doubting your own perceptions. Writing it down made it real, made it undeniable. Second, I found validation outside the system. Maya, my professors, my therapist, yes, I finally started therapy junior year, the Reddit community, people who could see the situation objectively. You can't heal in the same environment that hurt you. Third, I stopped arguing. Every time I tried to make my parents see the disparity, they got defensive and I got hurt. So I redirected that energy. Instead of fighting for scraps of their approval, I built my own table. Fourth, I accepted that they might never change. This was the hardest one. I spent years secretly hoping they'd wake up one day and say, "We're so sorry, we see it now, we were wrong." That hasn't happened. It might never happen. And I've made peace with that because my healing can't be dependent on their growth. Fifth, I focused on what I could control. I couldn't control how they treated me, but I could control my education, my work ethic, my friendships, my future. Every scholarship application, every A on a paper, every hour at my jobs, those were bricks in a foundation they couldn't touch. And finally, I redefined what winning meant. It wasn't about proving them wrong, it was about building a life I loved, regardless of their opinion about it. My book comes out in 3 months. I'm finishing my MFA, teaching composition classes, and freelancing as a copywriter. I make about $60,000 a year. Not rich, but more than comfortable. I have an apartment I love, friends who see me, a therapist I trust, and most importantly, I have peace. My relationship with my family is cordial. We text occasionally, see each other on holidays. It's not the close family I wanted as a kid, but it's what's sustainable for me now. I don't go into those interactions expecting anything, which means I can't be disappointed. Emma and I are slowly rebuilding something. She's in therapy too, working through her own stuff. Turns out being the favorite came with its own prison. She's had to unlearn the idea that her worth is tied to her achievements, that love is conditional on performance. Different wound, same source. My parents still don't fully get it. Maybe they never will. But that's okay. I don't need them to validate my experience anymore. I validated it myself. And honestly, that book advance paid for a car. A nice one. I picked it out myself, test drove it myself, signed the papers myself. Nobody gave it to me. Nobody chose someone else over me. I earned it. And when I drive it, I don't think about that night they gave Emma the car and I got nothing. I think about every scholarship application, every late-night essay, every shift at Target, every moment I chose to bet on myself when they wouldn't. That's what winning looks like. Not revenge, not proving them wrong, just building something so solid, so genuinely yours, that their opinion stops mattering. So if you're living this, if you're the overlooked kid, the forgotten sibling, the one who's expected to understand why everyone else comes first, hear me. You're not crazy, you're not too sensitive, you're not imagining it. And you don't have to wait for them to see you. You can see yourself. Document your truth. Find your people. Build your foundation. Redirect your energy from fighting for scraps to creating abundance. And one day, you'll look around at the life you built and you'll realize you won. Not because they finally chose you, but because you finally chose yourself. And that's the only victory that actually matters.